Hi everyone. Today we're going to tackle a really fun little ornament. I have a bit of a dark side from time to time, and one of the things that I absolutely love is voodoo dolls. These little guys are so cute, and they make great little gifts. You can decorate your Halloween tree with them, or if you're as twisted as I am, you can decorate your Christmas tree with them. The other fun thing you can do is pop them into an envelope and send them off to a friend or maybe not to a friend. But either way, you're going to have a lot of fun doing these. Now, when it comes to the actual surface that we're using, this is a gingerbread cutout. It's a laser cutout. This one is about 4 to 4.5 inches in size. They can be found almost anywhere. These ones are actually made from a local dollar store. But it really, the method that we're going to use to paint these really doesn't matter what size they are. They can be large, they can be small. I've even done them pin size on this little 1.5 or 2 inch gingerbread. So you can do them on a variety of sizes. The technique is the same regardless. As far as materials go, it's pretty straightforward. We've got some acrylic paints. I have a shape maker. If you've got a circle template or something of that nature, it will work too. There's also a line drawing attached to the free pattern that is available to download. So if you prefer to work from a line drawing, but you can do this with stencils. So I've used a circle maker and a little heart stencil that I have. This one is from a stencil studio. I love these. These are the Stencil Studio Minis. They're fantastic quality, and they come in a really nice selection of really fun patterns. So that's what I'm using for that. The other thing you're going to need is a couple of good quality paint brushes, and one of these, this one is a Deli Matte black marker. This is an indelible or permanent marker. So it has a fine tip point and it has a broad tip point. You can use an Identi-Pen if you prefer, or any permanent marker will work just fine. A stencil brush, and then a couple of your favorite angled shaders, and perhaps a small round or a small filbert will do the trick. Don't need a ton of materials for this one. So as for paint, there is a supply list and a list of colors in the pattern, but I'll quickly run through them here. We're using burlap, cobblestone, aloe, country red, asphaltum, lamp black, my favorite, Bahama blue, and a little bit of warm white. So it doesn't have a huge color palette, and you can pick and choose. If you have other favorite colors you'd prefer to use, by all means, go right ahead. So we're going to get started on this little guy. The base color for this is burlap. So I've got one coat of burlap on my ornament, and we're going to stencil. Now, we're going to stencil with this. This is drywall tape. You notice it's a little sticky on the back. It actually works very, very well for our purposes. So I'm going to cut a bigger piece. That's what I'm going to do. It comes in a roll just like this. You can get it at Home Depot. Any home improvement center will have it. It's not all that expensive. Of course, now I can't find the end of it. And we'll work with what we have. So I'm going to position that drywall tape like so. Just press it into place. And I'm going to use my stencil brush and a little bit of cobblestone. And this is going to create our texture on our cookie. Our little voodoo doll. We want that sort of burlap look. So I'm going to just use the tape and a little bit of cobblestone. And then I'm going to peel the tape away, and it leaves this lovely texture behind. It's very simple. The nice thing is that because it's a square pattern, it actually lines up quite easily. So just line it back up, load up your stencil brush, and give it another coat. It does not have to be perfect. In fact, it actually works better if it's not. I like the variations, the imperfections when you're doing this kind of thing. It's fun. And then remove the tape. And we have this great pattern in there. And as I said, it doesn't have to be perfectly aligned. The pattern doesn't have to be perfect at all. Easy peasy. As long as you get a little pattern on all areas of our little guy here, we're good. And there we go. That's it. All that with a little piece of drywall tape. I love that for texture. So I'm going to dry this really quick. Got a spot there that's a little damp. That's okay. Now we're going to make this guy look a little grungy because, you know, he's a voodoo doll. He has to look a little bit grungy. So I'm going to use, I'm using an angled shader and a little bit of thinned asphaltum. And I'm going to put a little float just around the outside edges. I am not looking for a perfect. We want him to look a little bit grungy and a little bit worn. Nothing, no perfections. Imperfections are what we're looking for. So I've got a little bit, now he looks a little grungy. I'm going to dry him really quickly. The nice part about using this technique is that if you just float thinned layers of color on, you can control it. So if it doesn't get dark enough to suit you, you can make it a little darker. And if you don't find it dark enough, especially that, you can switch to a slightly darker color. A portobello would work really nicely. So I'm going to deepen him in a couple of little spots. I want him to look a little more grungy than he is. He's been stuffed in somebody's pocket or in a drawer somewhere for a while. There we go. And I think that did it. So we need to give him a heart. What is a voodoo doll without a heart? And there's two ways you can do this. You could actually apply the paint, or you could simply trace it. I'm going to trace it, and then we'll just base coat it. So I'm just going to use the stencil as a template and put a heart right in the middle of his chest. And then I'm going to use my circle maker to put a head on the pin that's going to go in his heart. So we put a circle out here. And then while I'm making circles, I'm going to add his eyes. Now, I like the idea of having one eye bigger than another. In case you want to make it like a button, or you can do it like this, where he's got the weird and creepy eyes. I like the weird and creepy. So I'm going to choose eyes of different sizes, and I'm going to place them about 1/4 inch in from the edge. I don't want them too far apart. And then I'm going to make one that's a little bit smaller, and I'm going to drop it down a little bit, I think, so that it's not quite level with the other one. Just makes them look a little quirky. So now we have eyeballs, we have a heart, we have the pin. So let's paint in our heart. You don't need more than one coat of paint for this. He's going to be a little on the distressed side, which is fine. So I'm just going to quickly paint in the heart. I'm using a little bit of country red. You can use any red you like for this. I'm just partial to country red. It's a nice bold red. So there we go. A little red heart. And he has 2 eyeballs. I'm going to paint one white and one black. So it doesn't matter which. That's entirely up to you if you want them all, the larger eye to be white, by all means, paint it white. But I've done that before, so I'm going to do this one with black. Now, these little guys could be made into keychains. Just to drill a small hole at the top of his head and turn him into a keychain. Just attach a little metal fixture to it. It would make a cute keychain. He'd make a cute pendant. If you're celebrating in New Orleans, it'd be a fun piece of jewelry. Voodoo dolls have a long history and a dark one at times, but they're not always used for dark purposes. There we go. So he has a white eyeball, a black eyeball, and a heart. So I'm going to dry him really quickly. And from this point, this little guy is going to work up very quickly. They are super fun to do. You can do a lot of them in a very short period of time. I enjoy this kind of crafting a great deal because you can have so much fun and change it up to suit you. So I've got a small angle shader, and we're going to add a little shading, a little bit of thin asphaltum to one side of the eye, like so. Just want to give them a little bit of oomph, a little bit of depth, or height in this case. And I'm going to do the same thing to the heart. I want to put that little shadow in on the right side of the heart, just to give it a little height. Don't forget, come over here and do the same thing here. How fun. So now we have to give a little bit of shading to that white eye, and I'm going to do that with just a touch of Bahama blue, just a little float of Bahama blue, just that pretty blue teal. It's going to give our eyeball a little more interest. So little float right there, and then we're going to pick up a little bit of warm white and highlight both the eye and the pin. Don't forget the pin head. So I'm going to put a little highlight of warm white on that black eye, like so. And I'm going to do the same thing to the pin head. Just like that. And remember that lamp black that we used for the pinhead and the eyeball? I'm going to mix a little of that into some of that country red, and I'm going to float that on the back side of the heart. Right there. Nice soft float. Doesn't have to be too dark. That's why I mixed it with a little bit of the red. I just wanted that to give it a little more height. And then I'm going to come back with a little bit of that warm white. And we'll put a little highlight on our heart right there. just in a little bit from the edge, like so. And we will dry that. And this little guy is coming together very quickly. So we're going to do some final highlights. I'm going to erase some of those pencil marks that are on there. And the final highlights are simple. We're going to use either a liner or a rigger. Either one will work just fine for this. I'm going to put a little dot of warm white on the upper left side of the highlight on the eyeball, and the same on the pinhead, and the same on that white eyeball. It still needs a little bit. How fun is he? So cute. So I'm going to make sure this is good and dry because it's me and I will smear that if I don't dry it. And that's where our little marker comes in. Little permanent marker will work just fine for this. I'm going to make sure that my white is dry, and then I'm going to erase those pencil lines around my eyeballs. There we go. Perfect. Oops. Doesn't want to stay put. There we go. So our next step for this is so simple. We're going to use that fine point pen and we're going to put a stitch line, just a line of stitches all the way around the edge of our little voodoo doll. I'm just coming in from the edge by about 1/8 of an inch. Now you can make these stitches as long or as short as you like, or if you don't like them, you don't have to do them. I just kind of like the fact that he looks like he's been sewn. Super simple. Just adds a fun little detail. These little guys would probably sell really well at craft shows, craft markets, farmers markets, things like that. They can have someone's name, a custom name put on the back of them if you wanted to. I don't know. I just think that they would be a fun little gag gift. So I've got stitch line all the way around the outside. I am going to add a couple of stitches to the heart. I like to have 2 little stitches here, 2 little stitches there, maybe a couple at the top, like that. And I'm going to use the edge of my stencil. You can use a ruler or whatever, as long as it's got a straight edge. I'm going to draw a line from the pinhead to the center of the heart. And then I'm just going to put a little U shape in there, like so. And then it's up to you if you want him to have a mouth and what type of mouth. I mean, you can do this a number of different ways. I kind of like this sort of crooked mouth with a little line like this. And then you can add X stitches or just the little double hash marks, whichever you prefer, to create a mouth. So that gives you the bulk of the detail, but now we really need to make him look a little bit ragged. So I'm going to take my stencil brush and a little bit of asphaltum, and I'm going to darken it a little. I'm going to throw a little bit of black in it. Just a little, I don't want a ton. And I'm going to just lightly dry brush a few edges, like so. So I just snag the brush at the edge and pull in towards the center. And this just gives him a little bit of a dirty look. It just enhances that rough, I've been, stuffed in a drawer somewhere type appearance. He looks a little grungy. This just adds to that. There we go. You don't need much, just a little. It just gives him a little more character. And then the final step for this guy is just to add a little bit of spatter. And I like using the black for this because I wanted this to be a little more visible. I also want it to be a little heavier. So I'm just going to use my dirty stencil brush for this. I'm going to thin out a little bit of lamp black with water, and I'm going to fairly generously spatter this little guy with some thin to lamp black. And there we go. We have our little voodoo doll. Now, as I said, you could customize this any way you wanted to. You can paint the edges with gold paint. You could use the gold paint pen to finish him up, or you could do it with a black felt pen too. It would be fun to put somebody's name on the back as a gag or as a gift, or you could dress him up and change him up a little bit. But that is how you paint those little voodoo dolls. I hope you enjoy this. If you're looking for the cutouts, there's a couple of different places you can go to get them. Stockade.ca has the 3.5 inch and the small little 2.5 inch. But again, you can find this type of cutout almost anywhere. Our local Michael's store has them. So does the local dollar stores and things like that. Any generic little gingerbread shape will work for this. So I hope you enjoyed this. And don't forget to check out the website at tracymoreau.net. The pattern for this one is a free download, and it's in the free download section of the website. Thank you.